This isn't my review, but it is a point that I couldn't fit snugly into the script I have for my Equestria Games review. I thought I'd just say it here because it's a thing that it's come to my attention that people have this sort of argument. I thought I'd refute it. There seems to be this contention that the episode The Equestria Games, not having much to do with the Equestria Games, is okay because the games would have sucked. I'm going to quote this guy, Alexander Kryzak, put it up on the screen, because it embodies this argument quite nicely. Rainbow Dash learned that she'd rather fly with her friends than with the sure winners, so all that remained was the denouncement. I think that says denouncement. Seeing her get second place and being fine with it. Scootaloo learned that she should do what she can do and not focus what she can't do, so that all that remained was the denouement. What is denouement? Seeing the CMC successfully execute their routine at the games. The plot thread about having the games in the Crystal Empire, well, they're being held in the Crystal Empire. Done. Instead they focused on a plot thread that still had potential, the fact that Spike had saved the Crystal Empire before, and I thought it was a good choice. And he's right, of course. All the plot points about the Equestria Games that had been introduced have been resolved in this episode, albeit kind of half-heartedly, but you know, they were there. The problem with this argument, though, is that it implies that foregoing the experience of the Equestria Games in order to have a Spike episode was the only good option. And as I've just said that, I'm sure many people have been like, yeah, it was the only good option available. Anything else would have been dull or cliched. Are you serious, really, with that? Not a single other thing that could possibly have happened? You couldn't think of anything other than Spike? Nothing good could have come of the games at all. Let's go back a bit. Remember Rainbow Falls? Weren't we all speculating about the idea that Twilight couldn't compete in the flying thing, the relay, because maybe she was doing some other event, maybe a unicorn thing, maybe something with magic? You know, because the idea that magic unicorn events wouldn't have been in the games, that was never denied, nor was it confirmed. So that was always on the table. They could have had unicorns doing things. And you know what would have been cool? Would have been having Twilight doing something and then Trixie being there, being a rival, having her own little thing. And Rarity could have been competing in something, you know, making a magical sculpture out of marshmallows. Yeah, all of them could have been competing, all of the main six. I mean, Applejack, for fuck's sake. You know, such an athletic pony, doing all the rodeo things, the yee-haw and the what-ho with the rope. And she didn't compete in anything, not even any running thing. We know she's good at running. It could have been a track event, you know. Could have had some sort of thing with that. Granny Smith could have done some sort of swimming thing. There could have been a thing with Big Mac in a strength competition. Maybe a rock breaking competition with Maud. She turns up from another town and Iron Will comes over. He's doing the same thing and of course Maud wins. And that would have been cool. You know, it didn't have to be the obvious Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy doing the thing we already knew they were doing. There could have been other things. There could have been Gilda come back. It could have been Lightning Dust. There could have been brand new antagonists involved. You know, it could have been like Lightning Dust come back, Gilda comes back, and then there's this other arsehole. He's even worse than both of those guys. And then there's Rainbow Dash and there's sort of, you know, the camaraderie. They used to be enemies and now they're friends, rivals against the bigger evil, the jackass over there with his huge face. And then there's like jousting, you know, the Crystal Empire, the ponies with the jousting. There could have been something to do with that. There could have been, I mean, Spike could have been taking part in some sort of diamond cutting thing. I don't know. Anything. You know, events it's a magical event. It's all made up. You could do any cool sort of thing. You've got plenty of cool characters to do it with. You imagine Pinky in some sort of acrobatics bullshit. You could go nonsense all over the place. Maybe Cheese Sandwich is there as well. Maybe just in the background, because I don't know whether they get his voice. There could have been Flim and Flam. They could have been there. They're running some sort of illegal betting thing. The opening and closing ceremonies could have been such spectacles. They could have spent loads of time on them. It could have been, you know, the Wonderbolts could have done their own flying thing over their head, and there could have been a big... It could have just been like it should have been, an Olympics parody. An episode there was basically just the Olympics. You know? A lot of cartoons have done that, where it's just like all the characters get together and have a big rivalry sports thing, and maybe there's a villain in the background, maybe a new villain, who tries to, you know, fix the race or something, or drug people, or it could have been something like that. Sure, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's not a bad one. I think people get this idea that as long as it's cliched, it should never be seen, or it's always worse than something that isn't cliched, which is not true, because it's a cliche because it works. Sometimes you just need to embrace the fact that doing something that's unoriginal, but it's good, is fine, and enjoying it is also fine. You know, being original the whole time, it's impossible, really. If you're gonna do an episode about the Olympic Games, you better have Olympic Games style cliches in there, you know? All this stuff that could have happened, all this fun stuff. It could have even been like a setting. Like I saw Tommy Oliver, he had this idea that it could have been like the settings, the area in which some sort of big evil comes. You know, the games are there and you see them, but then in the background they're like, whoa, what's this? Is Discord coming and is he fucking everything up and Twilight has to go deal with him in the background? Because, if anything, the game should have been the forefront, and that should have all been the main thing that people were watching, and then anything else should have been like a subplot in the background that we would cut back to every so often. But in this case, it's Spike is the main focus, and we cut back to the main event, which seems stupid. Forget the fact that it was built up, you know? If this had been an episode with no build-up at all, it would still be shit, because you know, Equestria Games, it's an Olympic parody, and they do nothing with it. Even with no build-up, it would have been disappointing, because there's so many things you could have done. All those things are listed and more. It could have been brilliant. It could have been such a spectacle, such an amazing feat of whatever you call it, animation. So that's really all I had to say. I couldn't really get this part of my point to fit into my script, which I've written, and it's gonna be good, my review. Or is it? But if you still think that the Olympic Games, you know, big old event, it's still sports, and you're like, oh, well, it would have been boring even if it was all those things you said. It would have been stupid and I would have hated it. Fuck you. Fuck you. Not fuck you. You should go rape a kitten and die halfway through, and then flatten it with your huge blubbery mass. Sorry, that's a stupid way to end. I'm not trying to insult people who like the episode. I'll explain more about why I didn't enjoy it in my review. Like I keep saying, this is just a point. I'm done with it. I got nothing else to add. I can't think of a good way to end it, so I'm just gonna do this. I would go off the entire screen, like the whole way, and then end, but no, it's just gonna end right now.